Okay, is it time to ditch your beachy cliches and crate and barrel look at your property?
Actually experiencing what your guest would experience, and that's like the number one thing I tell people to do, because
Meet Allegra Muzzillo, a former editor in New York City turned interior designer and short-term rental superhost. She's not only curating experiences for guests, but she's also designing for cleaners, wear and tear, and that all-important 5-star review.
think about when you walk into a hotel, everything's cloud-like and white and crisp and clean, and people are able to see imperfections. They want to know what they're sleeping on. So
From peeling wallpaper to $3 duvets and those overused live, laugh, love signs, she's seen it all. She's here to tell us today what to use and what to avoid.
So I recommend inside and out using performance fabrics and upholstery throughout your home, and that includes rugs. Use indoor, outdoor rugs. These things are treated with...
My name is Jason Muth. I'm a 33-time Airbnb superhost. After 25 years working in the media business, I started my chapter 2 in the world of short-term rentals. Since then, I've hosted over 6,800 guests and their furry friends at our short-term rental properties. We're managing over $30 million worth of homes that we own and on behalf of our clients. This show is all about helping you create a smart stay, personal, profitable, and built to last. It's real-world hosting done smart. Let's go. Rory, did you know that good design impacts the profitability of a short-term rental property? Like, who'd have thought this?
Well, I mean, I sure did, but it's still somehow something that's often overlooked with short-term rental properties. And people make a lot of assumptions, and they kind of, tend towards safety and design, thinking of it as a long-term rental or a home. But it's not that. It's something that's very different. So I'm happy to jump back into that today and bring someone on who knows all about short-term rental designs.
I always love hearing from fellow hosts who are also really good designers and understand that design is like critical to your success. And I'd like to welcome Allegra to the podcast. Welcome, Allegra, to Smart Stay Show.
Thank you for having me.
Can you pronounce your last name for me? Is it Muzzillo?
Yeah.
All right. So, Allegra, we were talking off camera about some of our New York connections. I'm also from the New York area, and our Massachusetts connections, because you also have a property on Cape Cod.
Right.
So I can't wait to hear about that. And you have properties in the Florida Keys. Is that right?
One, yes.
Yeah. Now, Allegra's with ACM Interiors. She's the owner. And my hunch is that you have allowed design to inform your success as a host in all of your years of hosting.
Absolutely.
Tell us about your background.
Oh, so I started out as a writer and editor in New York City, and then I kind of wrote for a lot of shelter publications, and it was, there I kind of got my love for design, and then I went into that design work kind of organically. I started selling vintage home decor. I started freelancing after the writing or career that was kind of like, in corporate. And then I went over to working for myself in that capacity, owning a shop in Brooklyn, New York. And then I did some design there, and then everything just kind of organically formed. And I was doing design work in New York before leaving for the Keys 3 years ago.
So you live in the Keys now?
I do. Yeah.
Oh. Rory, we need to get down there. I still have not been to Key West or any of the Keys.
No, I mean, this time of year, the Northeast is still lovely, but in a few months we'll definitely need an escape.
Right. I would say skip September, skip the summer, come down in the fall.
What's interesting, one of our team members who works on our social media, Lauren, she and her husband were in Provincetown a couple of weeks ago. Like I invited them to stay at our place. We did some content and everything, and
awesome.
They live all over the place. Like they're kind of like, they just pick up and go. But we met them in Orlando, and they have traveled to the Keys frequently. And their reaction to Provincetown was it was a cleaner version of the Keys. And I was like, wait a second, or Key West. I was like, wait a second, Key West, I thought was super clean. Like what's the vibe like down there?
I don't think I think maybe a little racier.
All right.
In terms of dirty.
Yeah.
I don't think that the streets are dirty or anything like
Yeah,
that.
that was
Yeah.
no, that was the impression I got too. I was like, "You think this is okay?" Have you been to
No,
Provincetown before on when you've been on the Cape?
oh yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. Like I've been going to the Cape since I was a baby.
Oh, okay, okay.
Yeah.
So tell us about your hosting too. And like we'll start there and I want to figure out how design kind of factored into like your hosting style.
So I've been hosting for over, I mean, I want to say about 15 years, definitely over 10,
Hmm.
between 10 and 15. We've been a super host. My husband and I kind of run the business, and it is a business. We take it very seriously because it provides income for us, and we're able to live a certain way based on that. And that's just what we've wanted to do. We've really kind of really gotten to know the rules and the ins and outs. And I mean, being living in New York City, there was a lot we had to kind of learn quickly, and things changed very quickly too. So, as far as design and how it's informed, I think, again, I mean, it's been an organic thing. It's a natural thing for me to want to make a space more beautiful. And I think as we got more experience with different types of people coming through our properties, especially in New York City. I mean, there were Europeans, there were, Australians, people from all walks of life. So you start to see the differences, and you start to see similarities in what people want and expect from a property. Um, and so we've just kind of hit the ground running, 15 years ago, and kind of never looked back, and have been doing it ever since. So we have a property here in the Keys on Duck Key, in a
Hmm.
resort. It's on the property of a resort called Hawks Cay, and we have another property on Cape Cod in Dennisport. Yeah,
Yeah, Dennisport is beautiful. Probably a lot of
it is.
families staying there.
Oh, absolutely. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What what do you learn from your guests that you have adapted into your design style? Like whether it's um, people like to travel and go to places and stay in places that aren't where they live, right? Like very aspirationally.
Right.
I'm guessing that the people that are staying in the properties in your two properties don't have beach homes, right? So
Right.
they kind of want that beachy vibe when they're there. But how do you
Absolutely.
factor in some practicality to the property that also leans into the design?
So, as far as practicality in a coastal environment, you really have to know your weather and know how people are going to use the space. So, practicality is just staying in your own space, actually experiencing what your guest would experience, and that's like the number one thing I tell people to do, because no one's going to just tell you what's wrong all the time. I mean, you may have a 5-star review, but there's something actually wrong with your place. So that goes into it. And as far as, as I said, durability, sun, um, moisture, sand, all of those things really kind of batter your interior and outdoor furnishings. And so shopping for things that are going to last is part of practicality. Making things easy for people and effortless for people is also a part of practicality. And it also just serves to really improve the guest experience. And that's really what it's about. It's the guest experience. All your reviews, they're based on lived experience.
No, I mean, I know with a lot of properties, what might look great on paper as a layout or functionality doesn't necessarily translate to how people actually use it. And after hundreds of stays in our property, sometimes when people keep moving that one piece of furniture from one spot
Exactly.
to another, and if it keeps happening, that's almost like a crowdsourced way to understand that okay, that actually now belongs over there because that's how people are actually using the space.
Exactly. Yes.
Yeah, it looks great in a catalog, but when it shows up, if it's not practical, if it's not comfy, if it's not durable,
Right.
you end up replacing this stuff over and over, and your guests are going to notice.
And that's not an investment. Recurring furniture purchases is a recurring expense. It's
Sure.
not an investment.
And I guess also, designing for practicality for the cleaners too, because if the cleaners are constantly going to get hung up on one spot or one spot keeps getting overused in such a way, it's not efficient either. You want the cleaners to be able to do their job and get in and out. So it's not just about the guests sometimes, it's about the people you have working for you.
Sure. And I mean, those pieces of furniture that collect dust or have little nooks and crannies and creases, or they don't have a protective coating. Those things are very, very difficult to clean. If you have a lot of things laying around, how good can a cleaner be? I mean, they have properties to turn over, other than yours. They can't spend all day there, and they're never going to do that perfect job. They're never going to get all the crumbs out. They're never going to get the surface to look great.
Mhm.
And so, and if you're self-managing, you don't want to be doing that either. So,
Right.
yeah. And if you're, I mean, by self-manage, I mean, you're doing everything, cleaning, turning it over. Yeah.
I want to ask about the practicality of like some fabrics and materials too. Like we do have light couches at some of our places, but what's your take on, things that might show stains? Light couch, a lighter rug, bedding that gets random stains on it. Like how do you safeguard about some of those things, or how do you work with your clients on recommendations that might be a little bit more durable?
Yeah. So I recommend inside and out using performance fabrics and upholstery throughout your home. And that includes rugs, use indoor, outdoor rugs. These things are treated with solutions that withstand or resist moisture and staining, suntan lotions, things like that, down here, where that is a main, stressor to your pieces. Um, and as far as, gee, I forgot. The next thing with practicality
Like
was
bedding, like
the
what do you
bedding.
do with bedding? Yeah.
Oh, okay. So this is the thing. So if you replace furniture constantly, that's an added expense, but and not an investment. But soft goods, you're going to have to plan on replacing them. And I always tell people to use white. It's easy to bleach, and that's what our cleaners do. They do the laundry, and they're able to bleach and properly clean things. And also stains show up on those types of things. So if your guest comes in and you have like a black duvet, that's weird. I mean,
Yeah.
I would want it to look like a hotel. Think about when you walk into a hotel, everything's cloud-like and white and crisp and clean, and people are able to see imperfections. They want to know what they're sleeping on. So stick with white towels. As far as durability, I mean, there are many. I mean, if you're replacing them often, I don't think it needs to be the highest of high end. And there are plenty of companies that offer kind of a hotel level
Hmm.
towels and things like that. And even hotels themselves have bedding that they sell on their websites. So if you've stayed in a lovely hotel room, you can go to the website and pretty much repeat that on your short-term rental, in your master primary rather.
One thing we have to navigate having so many clients with Pride Away stays is that most of these places are their personal places or their personal second home. So it's good and bad. It's like I factor in their own style, and many of these people have like highly stylish places. But
Yeah,
that also includes bedding and things that will probably not withstand, 30 different sets of guests in the course of a year.
right,
It might, but I do find myself when things do have stains, having to reach out to the owner and be like, "Hey, where did you purchase this? We have to rebuy it if you
right,
want to." Right.
right. Yeah, I
We
mean, I think you should really plan to replace your bedding and everything, your linens, sheeting, all of that every season. I mean, there
Yeah.
are going to be, and you also need a back stock of it too.
Yeah.
So you
I
clean your
actually I
out of
just
your
pur-
owner's
I,
stuff. Yeah.
yeah, I just purchased 4 new queen duvets for one of our places. Inexpensive. And they're not white, they're tan because this is
Okay.
what I've had there.
Not the end of
And if
the
it
world.
what's that?
I said it's not the end of the world if they're
Not
not.
the end of the world. I know. I already hit the button on this, but I bought 4 of them. I got 2 full size mattresses with these bunks, and if they get stained, I'll just toss it and then bring another one into circulation. So,
Right. And
you
you've
know,
also, yeah, and you also, sorry to cut you off, but you also have now standardized your inventory, which is
Mhm.
also kind of a good thing for a self-managing guest to do. I always, as a practical design strategy, I would say standardize everything, your plates, your dishes, your silverware, among each of your properties or even in the same property. So the bedrooms can have the same duvet, same sheets. The
Yeah.
towels will be the same from bathroom to bathroom, etc.
Now, are you purchasing or recommending purchases of these types of potential things that need to get replaced frequently? Are you recommending, good retailers, Crate and Barrel, Pottery Barn, CB2, West Elm, or is that just a bit too high end for stuff that might need to get ruined, where you're getting it off, where instead maybe you should go to Costco or Amazon or BJ's Wholesale and just get some stuff that might be a step down from the brand name stuff, knowing you might have to replace it?
So, I personally don't shop retail. I don't shop West Elm, Crate and Barrel. I don't think that they're the best. I don't think that they have great customer service, and that's just um, my
Hmm.
experience. And I don't think that those places necessarily have high quality goods. I think I know they mark everything up extortionately. And really what you're getting is something that's been made for pennies on the dollar. So you're really not sure about durability. They really don't tell you much. And they create their own name for, say, a chair or something that they've purchased from a manufacturer, a wholesale manufacturer. So I purchased direct from wholesale because I'm a designer and I do the research and I have those relationships with vendors set up. So if someone works with me, I can do purchasing for them, or I can, if their budget doesn't allow working with me on a full scale project or full service project, I work hourly, and then I would give the client the shopping list. And yes, Amazon factors in, especially with sheeting and bedding and things like that. But again, there are also other places that um, I deal with that are wholesale that my client can actually purchase direct from the wholesaler on, they can purchase it on their own rather, from the wholesaler, which kind of gives my clients the added bonus of you're not going to see yourself coming and going. You're not going to see these things in another property or your next door neighbor's property.
Hmm.
Yeah.
What about the kind of the first time host that's just getting a property set up? I don't think that they understand all the wholesale channels. Maybe
No.
they're not going to work with a designer like yourself. Maybe they are. But, let's just say there's somebody that's buying that second home and they just want to get some things off the ground. And their mindset is clearly retail because that's what most consumers know.
Really?
It's
Yep.
very likely Amazon because you could buy everything under the sun on that platform.
Mhm.
Where do you think that person should begin when they're putting together design work for their property?
So I think the first time vacation rental owner or manager should really focus and I don't want to say splurge, but spend the money that you can, spend the most money that you can on things that guests touch and um, interact with frequently, the most frequently. So the bed, the sofa, the dining set, those things need to be top notch. They need to be high quality, durable pieces, and they're going to cost more than maybe the average one you're going to, the flat pack piece you're going to get from Wayfair or some such. Um, that's the rule of thumb. Spend as much as you can on the stuff that gets used the most, and then decor, things like that, you can fold in from thrifting. You can fold it
Mhm.
things in from the secondhand market, flea markets. I mean, that's what makes your space very unique. And I love shopping flea markets and thrifting and things like that. I find a lot of joy in that, and I try to include those types of things in order to convey a sense of place um, for for my properties. So, I'll buy things that are beachy, but not in the overly, obvious way, or the
Mhm.
cliche sign that says, the beach is my happy place. I'll get something that's maybe a bit more authentic and handmade by a
Mhm.
local artist.
Yeah. So actually, I want to dive into some of the design principles there because, we've established kind of standard things that should be standardized across your places, white, simple, and clean.
Mhm.
But I've also been an advocate for treating short-term rentals with a bold sense of style so that people are staying in a place that's unique, that creates an experience. And I think you're touching upon it with going out and thrifting and sourcing the decor from different places. But what are some good just design fundamentals to get people interested in staying in your space?
Well, it starts with photographs. So getting people interested starts with a photo. So your lead photo is basically the advertisement for your space. And if your lead photo stinks, no one's going to click on it. It's going to look like everything else. So there's no differentiator. So design helps to put you, to if you're in a commodity, pricing tier, it helps you step up into the higher band of pricing. So things like scale and proportion. Make sure your rug isn't too small. Make sure it's not floating in the center of the room, just like underneath the coffee table. What is the purpose of that? That will show through in a picture. If things, make sure your artwork fills the wall or it isn't too big for the wall. You really have to, it's a trial and error thing. And it really comes down to how your place, again, photographs. You don't have to, well, look, AI is your best friend. So if you're not sure of where to hang the pendant lamp over your kitchen island, you can go on Chat GPT and say, what is the ideal height to hang a pendant that's such and such size? And it'll spit out all the things that you need. What about hanging a mirror? Same thing. What about a piece of artwork that I'm not sure what size I need? And then you go and then you search the store and then you search by measurements. And then you get, something that will fit the space. Many retailers have the ability to search by measurements, things like that. Color. I would keep color to neutrals, mostly neutrals. But I agree with you on the boldness of the style. Sometimes you really do need something that kind of hits it out of the park, and again sets you apart from the rest. So statement lighting, a big beautiful chandelier does wonders. They look great on camera. Um, Again, the bedding, if you've got a big comfy bed, that looks great. I'm trying to think of other things. Have I answered your question?
What's your take on like murals and wallpaper? And you see that a lot in some of these statement short-term rental photos these days.
So I think that in terms of my thought on like accent walls and things, yes, that's fine. But I think they've been overused. And I think that Instagram is kind of going away from um, the, the diary kind of thing, and like the, here I am, this is what I'm doing, this is what I'm eating. So I don't think guests are really using them as much. Um, that it was kind of like make your space Instagram worthy. That's kind of different than making an accent wall with a neon sign or something. I think those are great. I think they have their place. I mean, especially if you rent to a lot of wedding parties and things like that, or bachelorette and bridal parties. But wallpaper does need an installer usually
Mm-hmm.
to be done right. And that peel and stick stuff, I don't know if it's going to last. Um, so
Rory
I
hates it. He was my installer. I
yeah,
love the peel and stick. Yeah.
yeah. I mean,
No.
there's better peel and stick now. I wouldn't recommend peel and stick because if I do wallpaper, it's not going to be like cheap wallpaper. It's going to be like, it's going to stay there. Um, I do like those things. I think it just really needs to be tasteful. Um, and I don't know. I'm trying to think of something that's not. I mean, huge palm trees in your living room, or like a photograph sunset. It's a little
Yeah.
distracting to me.
Yeah, I've seen those big, like, kind of murals you could put on that aren't like an original artist that does them. We have a couple murals that I love at one of our places that I had an artist come in and physically paint there. He stayed there a couple
Well,
days, and
that sounds
I,
great.
yeah, I really think that they kind of lean into the nature of the area. Like we picked a couple animals that were at the lake, like a loon
cool.
and a deer and a big fish. I remember his first design of the fish was the fish kind of jumping out of the water about to eat me, and I'm like, that looks a little aggressive, so we switched it over to a different one. But yeah, no, I love them. Yeah, and I actually I want to bring him back in for a couple more walls that I have in mind for another one of our places next door. But yeah, I wanted to have original art there. My mother's an artist. I have some of her original
Mine
artwork
too.
at our place in Provincetown. Yeah, you know how P-Town is just so vibrant with color that I wanted to bring color into the space. But you know, original art's expensive sometimes. So like we
Oh,
we
absolutely.
really we didn't do it everywhere. We did it in some areas. Then we kind of augmented that with other pieces.
Right.
The fact that you talked about the cliche beach stuff, I love that because the only place that I kind of did a little design work for a client of ours, which by the way, the property's killing it this year in
Oh,
Provincetown,
great.
which is great. I had to literally rid the space, almost like Sage, like when you're kind of getting rid of the spirits. I had to rid the space of all of the home goods, live, laugh, love, the beaches this way stuff that was in there. I had 2 or 3 boxes of it. I think I left it in the closet in just disgust. I was like, this needs to go somewhere else. And I brought in some other things that weren't exactly original, but were just brighter and more vibrant. And I think
Right.
really kind of helped to define the space better.
Right. I mean, those
Um,
are very generic and they could be anywhere.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
100%. Um, so talk a little bit about the clients that you're working with. Are they across the country, or are you working locally, or what is your approach?
Oh, both. So I do virtual work and I do in-person work. So right now I'm working with a client in California on a bedroom project. The focus there is more heirloom pieces that will, it's a big budget, which is great. They'll hold their value or appreciate in value over time. And so it's a nice kind of dichotomy where here I'm working with people who just want to make their places profitable.
Mhm.
And it's more immediate. This is more of a slow burn in California. So there's a nice little switch.
Let me just kind of focus in on that. You mentioned you want the place to be profitable. So, design work, people buy the property, it's expensive to buy the property, they've used all the money, and now suddenly they have to like buy furniture and design. So how should somebody factor that into their overall budget number? Beyond when you purchase the property, you're going to come in and make a recommendation for a certain design budget plus your fee,
Mhm.
and the client's going to see that and they're going to start to say, okay, how do I make this money back over time? Like, what's your equation and calculus there?
Well, of course, I mean, I wish there was an equation. There isn't really an equation, but there are real factors that are nuanced, more nuanced than kind of repaint your place and triple your nightly rate automatically. That doesn't work. It won't work. But I mean, you have to think about your nightly rate. So that's one way you achieve profitability. You have to think about your reviews. So you always want 5-star reviews because that's another way that you keep your investment. And then long term ROI, return on investment. So those three things kind of factor into profitability when we talk about interior design. Um, yeah, and so with the nightly rate, it's all about the guest's perceived value of your space. I mean, and it's funny because, well, it's kind of obvious. Airbnb, VRBO, and Booking.com have displays that are side by side. So if you're searching for a room, you're going to put in your pricing, and then it's going to spit out tons of different properties side by side, often in the same location. So what's the differentiator? Well, it's style, it's value, it's communicated value. So if your listing communicates more comfort, more space, more care than the property that's maybe $10 to $25 cheaper than yours, you'll still win that booking because of that value, perceived value. And in terms of guest reviews, again, we talked about it, they come from lived experience. Guests, you can go to other people's reviews and kind of see what's bad, what's good, what they mention, what they don't. And they'll mention things like a bad sleep, poor layout, things like that, bad furniture, wobbly furniture. So the design, good design, it will anticipate and correct those issues before they become a problem and make it into the review. And then repeated 5-star reviews push you higher in the algorithm. They make you stay visible. They'll drive your bookings. And then eventually those reviews give you the leverage to raise your nightly rate. Yeah. And then the third thing was ROI, but I don't want to cut you off.
I was going to say, I take the guest reviews and their feedback very seriously. I always say it goes in a couple buckets: stuff you have to fix immediately, stuff that you'll get to eventually, and stuff that's just ridiculous and you're not going to do, but you thank them for their feedback.
Right, exactly.
I remember I was looking through a property listing yesterday, trying to draw some comps for somebody else that might consider working with us, and wanted to kind of get some sense of a property they're considering. And I was like, why does this property have like a 4.2 rating? It's a Casa managed property, shocker. But some of the some of the mattresses there were extremely lumpy and uncomfortable, and it was mentioned multiple times. And I'm looking at this and I'm like, first of all, when is the property manager going to tell this to the owner that this is coming up? Or when's somebody going to notice this? And second of all, when are they going to fix it? Right? Like if I got one notification that it was a lumpy or bad mattress, like it's getting fixed immediately. It shouldn't happen 3 times for guests.
Right.
And this is practicality, which is a function of the design work, right? So like, I mean, a mattress is not something that you're going to design. You want to have a comfortable mattress, right?
Right.
And you highlight this.
Yeah.
But that's just one example. It could have been the sofa, it could have been the table, it could have been the outdoor furniture. And then you have to kind of give that some thought as the designer. We've already talked about, practical design, durability. Right. But yeah, when it feeds into the reviews that guests are going to give, and if you as a host are not going to fix it, it's just going to keep coming up.
Yeah. And I mean, that kind of goes back to your point where the first time owner, how they kind of work to save money and be profitable. Manage it yourself. If you can, manage it yourself, because no one's going to care about it like you do. That property manager has maybe 10, 15, maybe 100 properties they're working with, depending on where you live or own. And they're just not going to have that attention to detail like you would. And really, those reviews are gold. If you have bad reviews, you're not going to get bookings and your profitability will suffer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Rory, final thoughts for Allegra?
I just have one design question, and it's more, I guess, philosophical design question. What do you feel about designing a property with a really specific avatar or a demographic in mind versus designing a property for a general audience? I think they're 2 different business strategies, but what are your thoughts on that?
I think my gut reaction to that is, if you're really going luxury, then the avatar works. But for the most part, you just want to get heads in beds. Mm-hmm. And that's my philosophy. Does that sound like too, I don't know if it sounds weird.
No, I mean, it's not weird. I think that's,
we are business owners too. And so really that's, I mean, if I rent it, then I make money. If it's too personal, it may turn off some people. I don't want to turn anyone off. I want them all to go.
Yeah, I've always looked at some of these extremely designed properties, like if it's going to be a house in Orlando that has all these theme rooms, or just something that is specific to a specific, Ryan Trahan was just on the road this summer, stayed in 50 different short-term rental properties. One of them was like Star Wars theme, one was something else themed. And yeah, it looked cool for them.
Ryan Serhant? Yeah.
No, Ryan Trahan. You look him up. He stayed in 50 different Airbnbs in 50 different states this summer, and it was a really genuine, really well done series that was I just watched it every single day. But yeah, some of the properties are lean into a specific person, someone that loves sci-fi, someone that loves Star Trek, someone that loves Star Wars. And I guess that works for the property owner.
I think maybe that might work. And I just had a thought, in a place that isn't really tourist driven, or there aren't many kind of if you're in a weird town, I don't want to give out any towns and insult anyone, but if you're in a town that's just not much going on and you're needing to stay there and you don't want to stay in a hotel, maybe that Star Wars themed place is like what kind of gets booked because there's nothing else going on, so.
Well, there's a lot of ways to skin the cat with design, and a lot of different opinions, and we appreciate you sharing your opinions on what good design is. We're going to link up your website, acminteriors.com, here in the show notes. If people want to get a hold of you, it's very easy to go find you on the contact page there. Plus, I'd recommend following you on Instagram as well. We'll put that link down as well.
Thank you.
And Rory, we will link to str.legal for all those fun legal questions here in Massachusetts and New Hampshire where you are licensed.
I wish I had you, Rory, back when I was in the city.
Yeah.
What a time that was. But
that's a lot to navigate.
That is a whole separate conversation based on what we were talking about off camera. So we'll just put a pin in that there. Thank you for listening. If you've enjoyed the episode, we'd love it for you to give us a 5-star review, and we read all your comments. smartstateshow.com is where you can get all of our past episodes, both video and audio. And like Allegra, you can fill out our lead form, and we can have a conversation with you and see if you'd be a good guest on the show. So thank you so much for being part of the show, Rory. Thank you for all your insights and questions. And I can't wait to go make some good design choices as I upgrade our properties. Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you.
Bye.